Welcome to Section 1, Understanding C++ Fundamentals Part 1, Variables and Methods/Functions. In this video we are going to learn about variables and variable types, methods/functions, classes and structs, and what the private, public, and protected keywords are. Variables are containers of data. A variable is a container that holds only specific types of data when it is declared. When declaring a variable, you must also declare a name for that variable. This is for the programmer to be able to keep track of what is going on. Variables can be editable at runtime, or they can be set to constant, which doesn't allow for it to change once it's been set. Some common default variable types are bools or booleans, which are true and false variables. They can also be 1 or 0, which is 1 being true and 0 equaling false. Floats and doubles are decimal numbers with low accuracy and high accuracy, and they can both be positive or negative. Ints are whole number integers that can be positive or negative. Chars, which are single characters, they can be a letter or a symbol or a number. And strings, which are a whole series of characters, they can also be classified as an array of chars. Arrays are containers in memory for variables. Arrays can hold one type of variable, but it can hold multiple variables of that type. Each variable added to the array is called an element. Arrays have indexes to keep track of where each variable is within memory. Arrays always start at 0 for the index counter because the index is how many elements away it is from where the array starts, like an offset. As you can see in the graph on the right, the array holds 5 integers. Index 0 holds an integer value of 16, and this repeats through all of the indexes. Methods and functions are basically the same thing, but are different in semantics that are not important for this course. For the duration of this course, we will be using the word functions because this is what Unreal Engine 4 uses. Functions are chunks of code that you could use to repeatedly use that chunk of code without having to copy and paste it everywhere. They can also be used to return values such as floats, bools, and other variable types. In the example on the left, we have a function that is executing multiple lines of code and not returning any values. In the example on the right, we have a function that is calculating the player health and returning a float value that is meant to represent the player health amount. Game development uses a programming practice called object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is a programming practice where it uses containers called classes to hold variables, functions, and other types of data within them through the idea of inheritance. Inheritance is the idea that if I make a class and it holds some variables and functions, and then I make a child class that inherits from the parent class, then the child class should be able to use those variables and functions from the parent class. The public, private, and protected keywords control what gets inherited and what doesn't. Public, meaning any functions or variables are accessible by any class regardless of inheritance. Protected, meaning this variable or function can be used within the same hierarchy of inheritance. And private, which is specific for that single class and it cannot be accessed by any other class. That includes inheritance. By default, classes have variables and functions set to private and must be specified to be public or protected. Classes and structs are the two main types of data that game programmers use. Structs are mostly used for data containers compared to classes, which are used to both hold data and execute code. You can create a variable that uses the type struct or class, thus creating your own custom variable. Structs by default are public, while classes are private by default. This graph is to visually explain the idea of inheritance, starting with human as the base class, and each subclass has two variables, hair color and age. Age is set to protected so it cannot be accessed by another class, but it can be changed internally. Hair color is set to public so it can be accessed by another class and changed by anybody. As you may also see, Liz has a third variable named finger length, and this does not inherit down to John. This is because it is a private variable, which makes it special to the Liz class. Liz is also changing Sam's hair color to pink because the variable is public, thus allowing Liz to change Sam's value regardless of inheritance. In the next video, we will be continuing with understanding C++ fundamentals by going over pointers and memory management.